Well, as every year passes, the U.S. seems to go down a little bit in the international rankings in terms of our education system. You just sort of realize that if we don't get our act together, we're not going to be providing our kids and our future leaders with the kind of education that will ensure our continued economic strength. And, one of the biggest issues holding our, education system back is really the quality of education that we're providing for our kids, who do face extra challenges. So I think taking on the achievement gap that persists along socioeconomic and racial lines will do a huge amount to increasing the educational levels of the whole.
The key to the future prosperity of Arizona is the level of education of Arizona's workforce. The ability to diversify the economy here, to get the state to a point where it's attracting many more high-wage jobs, where it can weather storms like we just had in terms of the recession much more effectively. That really comes back to the level of education of the workforce. The business community knows that the state isn't where it needs to be. This can't be a state that just relies on retirement and tourism. It can be so much more than that. And by looking at the example of Florida, which has made tremendous strides forward, very similar in terms of the economy, very similar demographically, similar politically, made tremendous strides forward in educating students to a much higher level and closing achievement gaps. To me, that's a beacon that Arizona can follow.
We have a situation where, in our country, a country that aspires so admirably to be a place of equal opportunity, 15 million kids are growing up below the poverty line. Half of them will not graduate from high school. The half who we applaud for walking across the graduation stage have an 8th grade skill level on average. And so for those kids, their families, their communities, and of course for our democracy and for our economic strength, it's a tragedy. And it's what makes it, I think, all the more tragic is the fact that we know it doesn't have to be that way. We can solve this. And I think we have a moral imperative now that we know it's possible to solve that problem. We have to do it. And that's what fuels the sense of responsibility, the sense of urgency that we feel and that so many in the business community and in the civic leadership of our communities across the country feel.